Alright, welcome back everybody. My name is Dustin, and in the last video, we created the tile tool, which will be the parent class for the create tile tools that we're going to be creating today, which will be the parent class for the create tile tools. So in this video, we're actually going to do the create tile tool and finally start creating tiles. Well, we may not actually create the tiles, but we'll at least get it joined to the screen. We will also create the tool manager class that will control what tool that we are currently using. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to want to do right now is to create a new tool, and it's going to be called the CreateTileTool, and we're going to inherit from TileTool here. Okay, so let's go, we can close this for now. In our tools, we're going to want to create a new tool, and we're going to call this CreateTileTool.h. And yes, we're going to want to add it to our executable and do our pragma once. Great. So like we said before, the create tile tool is going to inherit from tile tool. So we're going to include tile tool here. So include tile tool.h. And then we're going to say namespace Scion editor. And then class create tile tool. And this is going to be public tile tool. Great. So right now we're not going to have any private variables. This may change in the future, but right now everything is just going to be public. We don't currently have a need for private variables. So we're going to want to have the constructor. So that's just the create tile tool constructor. And the destructor can just be virtual, or can just be default, sorry. A virtual create tile tool destructor, and that can just be default. Great. Now, since the create tile tool inherits from the tile tool, we need to override those two functions, the create and draw functions, okay? Because those were the pure functions that we went over in the last video. So virtual void create, and that's going to be override. And we're also going to have another one, and that's for draw. Cool. Now, for this particular tool, this is all we're really going to need right now. We can add other things back in later on. So let's actually just quickly create a new CPP file. Here, tools, add new file, and that's going to be CreateTileTool.cpp. Cool. And yes, we want to add this in, and we're going to include our create tile tool and just add our namespace in right now. Scion editor. Cool. Now that we have that, we can actually create these easily. Control period, down, create, and declaration definition. Awesome. Okay, so let's go check out our definitions. These were all created nicely. That's what we want. And for the constructor, all we're going to want to do is call the tile tool constructor. So tile tool, that's all we need to do. Okay, so we're going to have some includes here. Let's come up here, and we're going to need to have the asset manager. So that's in core, resources, asset manager. We're going to need the main registry. We're going to need the camera, that's in rendering, core, camera, and we're going to need the logger, include logger, and we're going to want to have the editor utilities. So editor, utilities, editor utilities. Great. Okay, so the create function is going to be a little involved, so we'll do this last. First, let's do the draw function. We might not get to the create today. I'm going to try. We'll see how everything goes, but we're going to do that last. So the draw function is pretty straightforward. The first thing we're going to want to do is a couple checks here. So we're going to want to check to see if the sprite is valid. So if not sprite valid, or because if we don't have a sprite loaded, there's no reason to call the draw functions. Okay. Also, if the tool is not activated, so if not is activated, is activated. If it's not activated, we also don't want to have to draw that particular tool. Then there's the out of bounds. We don't want, if it is out of bounds, we don't want to draw it. Right now, the out of bounds just returns false. It's because we haven't filled that function out yet. Well, this one is filled out, but the check bounds function, we haven't filled that out yet. We don't need that right now. We'll get into that later when it's more important. And we also want to check to see if the camera is valid. So we want to see MP camera. We could probably make a function for this in the base class to see if it's valid rather than just sending in the pointer here. And if any of these we want to return. Cool. No need to continue drawing. Okay, so now we need to get the shader from the main registry and make sure that we're setting our projection uniform to the camera matrix. Okay, so we can go auto p shader is equal to main registry dot get asset manager dot get shader, and we're going to want to get the shader. I believe it's called basic, but we'll have to make sure. Let's just do a quick follow of this and see if it's in here. Yeah, so that's there. Render system as shader basic. Cool. So that's the one we want. And we can just go back into here. We want to check to see if the shader is null pointer. So if not p shader, we're also going to return. Now we may want to put an error here later if we're not drawing, or we can just put a breakpoint here to see why, right? So if it's returning here, we know. So we're going to want to enable our shader. So p enable. Oh no, not p enable. P shader enable. Once we have that enabled, let's get our camera matrix. Now we already know the camera is valid, or it would have left, right? So we can just go auto cam mat is equal to mp camera get camera matrix. Then we want to set our uniform, the projection. So p shader set uniform map 4. Now we should also go back to our shader here and finish all of these set uniform functions. Right now we only have a couple, but we should set them all the necessary ones. So that should be a little challenge for you as well. Finish off our shader class to have all of the uniforms. Cool. So we can go back here, and we're just going to want to set in, I believe it's U projection, but we will check. I spelled that wrong. Projection. And that's just the cam matrix. Cool. Let's check this first. So let's go to our basic shader. Now, we already have, I believe that so we already have our shaders in our assets here. And we're using the same shader. So basic shader.vert. And it is U projection. Okay, good. Now that we have everything set up here, all we need to do is call the draw mouse sprite. Draw mouse sprite function. That's all we have to do for this particular tool. Later on, when we do the rect fill tile tool, we'll have more stuff to do in here, but we'll go over that when we get to that. And then we can just set the shader. We can disable the shader. Cool. Great. Yeah, so before we do this create function, I want to make sure that we're actually drawing this. So we still have a little bit to go before we're actually drawing this. So let's do that now. We don't want to just have a create tile tool. We want to have a manager. So let's go and create the tool manager. Okay, but before we create the tool manager, so what is the tool manager? The tool manager will just keep track of what tools that we have and which one is currently activated for use. So the first thing I want to create actually before that is another file which will be used for the tool accessories. So let's go into here, bring this down, source, tools, and we'll add a new file here, add file, and this will just be called tool accessories.h. Yep, I want to add that in. And this is just basically going to be a utility file. So pragma once for the tools. And the first thing I want to create for this, I want to do actually my namespace first, is Scion editor. Cool. And the first thing I want to create is an enum class for the tool types. Now we're only going to have 2 tool types right now, but we'll definitely be adding some more in later. So we're going to say enum class, and it's just going to be tool type. We could put tool type here. Actually, you know what? I think that's what we should start doing. All of our classes, we should put E in front. So I'll go through and make those changes as well. All of our enum classes. And we're going to have 3 entries right here. And first it's just going to be create tile. And we're just going to have that equal to 0. Not semicolon. And then the next one is going to be rect fill tile. And then the last one is just going to be no tool. Cool. Or not a tool, but no tool is good enough. Okay, so that's enough for now. We'll definitely be adding more to this file later on. But now that we have the tool accessories, we can go and start the tool manager class. So let's do that right now. So let's go back to here to tools. Let's create another file, new file, and this is going to be the tool manager.h. And yep, we want to add those in. And we want to add our pragma once. Our namespace, Scion editor. Great. Okay, so we're going to need a couple includes here because we're going to need map and we're going to need memory. I should do a PCH file before we go to any much further, but this is good for now. And then we're going to have a class, and it's going to be tool manager. Cool. And we're going to have some private, public. Cool. And let's start from here. So we're going to need a map of tool types to pointers of the tile tools. Okay. So we want to say std map, and that is a tool type. And it's going to be an std unique pointer of tile tools. Okay. Now I don't want to, we can forward declare these, so it's just map tools. So up here for tool type, right inside on editor here, we can go enum class tool type, because you can forward declare these, and we can say class tile tool. And we're also going to need the canvas, so we might as well forward declare that now as well. Canvas. Cool. It's not tile tools, just tile tool. Great. So now that we have our map of tools, we're going to need to do the constructor, and that's just be a tool manager. And inside of the constructor, we'll create all the necessary tools that we're going to use for the manager. So we'll populate the map. Okay. And then our destructor can just be default, so we just copy this down. It is default, fault. Cool. We're also going to need an update function that will find the active tool and call that update function for that tool. Okay, so we can just say void update, and just like the other ones, it takes in a canvas reference of canvas. Cool. Then we're also going to want to create a function where we set the specific tool type to active. This function should activate the tool based on its type and then deactivate all the other tools. So we'll just say void set. This is not, we need to do e tool type just to, because that could be a mistake. Cool. So set tool active, and that's going to be e tool type. Cool. And we're going to need one more function, and that is to get the currently active tool. This is just going to return a tile tool pointer. Since all the create tile tools will be tile tools, we can use polymorphism, and if we need to use any specifically added functionality that is not part of the tile tool itself, we can just use a dynamic cast there. Okay, so we'll just say tile tool pointer get active tool. Great. And let's create all of these, but I seem to have a problem with, since I moved over to CMake, it takes forever if you try to do this without the file already existing. So I'm just going to go and add that file in right here, tools, tool manager, add new tool manager.cpp. Yep, we want to add this in, and let's say include tool manager. Let's just do our namespace now. Scion editor. Cool. So now we can go back here and let's create all these functions. Control period, create declaration definition. Awesome. So it created all those nicely for us. Great. So let's include a few things that we're going to need, and it's going to be the include. We're going to need the CreateTileTool because that's one of the tools we have right now. And we're going to include the tool accessories. Okay. Cool. In the constructor, this is where we're going to actually create all of our necessary tools. Okay. So what we can do is auto p create tile tool is equal to std make unique create tile tool. And then in our map, we're going to want to say m map tools dot in place e tool type create tile, and it's going to be std move p create tile tool. Cool. And now once we've done that, we're going to want to add other tools. So to do add other tools as needed, right? And then for now, we just want to set the default tool or default active tool to the create tile tool. So set tool active. We haven't done this function yet, but we will shortly. So tool type, tool type, sorry, create tile. Awesome. All right. So in the update function, we just want to find the currently active tool and then call the update function of that tool. Okay. So for that, we can just use the std ranges find if function. We can loop through all the tools and find the first active tool. Okay. So we can go auto active tool is equal to std ranges find if and we can send in our map. So mmap, not mmap tools, and then we just have to send in a predicate, and that's going to be auto reference tool return tool dot second is activated. Cool. And this could be const probably. Cool. Now we're going to want to see if the active tool is not equal to the end map. So if active tool is not equal to m map tools dot end, we're going to want to call the update function. So active tool second dot update, and we send in the canvas. Great. We could also hold on to a variable in the tool manager that will tell us which type is active. So every time we set active tool, we could set that type to active and then grab it directly from the map. But this is what we're going to use for now. If we want, we could change it later, maybe test to see which one's better. But we'll do that later. Okay. So the set active tool, which all this is going to do is loop through all the tools and then set the type that is sent in to active and then deactivate all other tools. Okay. So we're just going to want to go for auto reference, and we're going to use type and tool. Now this could probably be p tool because it is a pointer. And we're going to say m map tools. Okay, so this is a structured binding. I like this since we're not changing anything here, right? So we're not actually like taking out any of the entries. We could just use a nice structured binding here. We don't want it to be const because we are going to be calling activate. So we can go if type is equal to tool type, then we can say p tool activate, else p tool deactivate. Yeah, that should probably be a small a. Let's change that. Cool. And we can go back. Awesome. And that should do the job for us. Well, let's try to make this const. See if that'll work. Oh, you can make it const. Great. We'll see if that fills later. Okay, so the get active tool is basically going to be the exact same as this here. So we can just copy this, right? And paste this in here. Now, we don't want to do the update function. We're actually going to want to send back. So we want to return this here. The active tool second dot get. We want to return the pointer. Okay. And if not, we're just going to return null pointer. So we got to make sure that we check for that if it's a null pointer, if we're ever using this get active tool. Okay. So we can actually put that in. So brief returns gets the current activated tool, returns a pointer to a tile tool if activated, else returns null pointer. Cool. Same with this. You can add, go ahead, feel free to add comments. So this one will be brief. Activates the tool based on the passed in tool type. This will also deactivate all other tools. And then param tool type, the tool type we want to set active. Sure, that works for me. So let's go back to our tool manager. We got everything. We have everything. Great. So now that we have this, we can actually go to our scene manager and add in a tool manager object. So let's go to our scene manager now. So scene manager. Cool. All right. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is forward declare the tool manager. So we can go class tool manager. And then we're going to add a unique pointer. So std unique pointer to a tool manager. And that's M. And that's MP tool manager. Cool. And we might as well make a function down here to get the tool manager. Okay, so we'll say tool manager reference get tool manager. Cool. And we can create this function. All right. So let's go back as well. Before we start getting into this, the tile tools need to have their current tile set loaded. So let's keep track of it in the scene manager. Okay. So when we change scenes or change the tile set, we want to be able to set that value for the active tool. Okay. So let's have ms current tile set, and that can just be default as empty string. And then we're going to make another function, and it's going to be void set tile set. Okay, const std string reference s tile set. Cool. So in this function, we're not just setting the tile set. We also want to make sure that we're calling the load sprite function on our active tool. So we can create this as well. Cool. Since our scene manager constructor is default, I actually want to set this to null pointer right here. Null pointer as well. Okay. So the first time that we actually call get for the get tool manager, this is where we want to check to see if it's null pointer. Okay. So if not MP tool manager, we're going to want to create a tool manager here. So MP tool manager is equal to std make unique. We need to add in, we need to include the tool manager here. So include, this would be editor tools tool manager.h. And we're also going to want to include the tile tool. So editor tools tile tool. Because we will be returning the tile tool, we need to know what it is. Okay, so let's go down here. So we'll make unique, and this is just the tool manager. Cool. Then I'm just going to want to assert to make sure that it is there. So I want assert MP tool manager. Tool manager must be valid. Cool. And after we do that, we can return dereferenced MP tool manager. Great. So now we want to set the tile set. And for setting the tile set, the first thing we're going to want to do is set the member variable first. So ms current tile set, not current scene, current tile set is equal to s tile set. Okay. And then I want to check to see if the tool manager is valid. So if not, mp tool manager, we're just going to return. Now this should be valid because we're probably going to call get tool manager before we call get tile set, but we'll do the check anyway because we're going to need to get the active tool from the tool manager. So we want to go auto p active tool is equal to mp tool manager get active tool. Okay. And then here, if the active tool is valid, so p active tool, right now we're going to want to call p active tool load sprite texture data and send in the ms current tile set. Tile set. Great. All right. Control KD. Let's do that in here as well. Control KD. Cool. Just make sure everything's nice and clean. Cool. All right. So now let's go see if we can actually do this. Okay. Let's see if we can actually draw the tool. So let's go to Tilemap display and add this in. So do we have that anywhere here? We do not. So let's open that up. Close this. Open up displays. Tilemap display.cpp. Okay. Let's include our tool manager. So let's go include. I don't know what that is. Include editor tools, and we want the tool manager, and we might as well add in the CreateTileTool. All right. So here we're not doing any of that right now. Not too worried about the render system at the moment. Actually, we could probably uncomment all this. Let's just uncomment it and see. Render systems. Cool. And we're going to have to probably include these systems. Yeah, doesn't look like we have those. So let's include those. So we need our include core systems, render system, render UI system, and render shape system. And here we can use using name space Scion core. Is it systems? It is. Scion core systems. Cool. So now we're doing that, and we need to change these because we've also changed how we run these. So we need to send in our registry right here. But it's not get registry, we're just sending in the registry, I believe. Yep, so that just takes a registry reference, and registry is undefined because we're not actually using this registry, okay? We'll be using the scenes registry. So we need to make that change. So we need to actually get the current scene. So we can't do anything here without the current scene. So let's get that. So auto p current scene is equal to scene manager get current scene. Now that we have our current scene, we'll do all this here, and we'll do our bind, clears, and right here, before we continue, we don't want to draw this at all if there's no scene, okay? So let's just say if not and current scene, we're going to unbind the tile map, or unbind the tile map frame buffer. Take this and just change this to unbind. Unbind. And we're just going to return. Cool. Else, we get here, we can actually start sending in all the stuff we need. So we need to take the current scene, and that's just current scene. So it doesn't know what the scene is because the scene object. So we need to include the scene object in. Do we have scenes anywhere? Editor scene right here. Put it here. Include editor scene object .h. Cool. So now that we know what a scene is, we can get the registry. And this one just takes the registry, doesn't take a registry pointer. This update with the render shape system takes just the registry as well. Copy that. Render UI system just takes a registry. Cool. All right. So we're going to want to render all this stuff first. And then we're going to want to, because this will actually render the tiles. So as we place tiles, they'll be getting placed into this registry, right? But now we want to draw the active tool. So let's get the active tool from the scene manager. So auto p active tool equal to scene manager dot get tool manager dot get active tool. And we only want to do this if it's if it is valid. So if p active tool is valid, so p active tool draw. Cool. So now that we have all this, we want to make sure that we're calling this in the update function and that we're updating our tools. Okay. So in our update function, we got a little bit more to do now. So the first thing, we want to get the scene, and we don't want to do anything. So where are we doing that? Right here, the scene here. So we can copy this, go down to the bottom, and get our scene. So if our scene's not valid, we just want to leave. So if not p current scene, we can just return. Cool. So just like in the draw function, we're going to want to get the active tool. So auto p active tool is equal to scene manager get tool manager dot get active tool. And if the active tool is valid, we're also going to want to check to see if there's an active drag and drop, because if we're changing scenes, we don't want to check the tools and all that because it could be changing. Registries could be in the middle of changing, so we don't want that. So we want to go if p active tool and not IamGUI get drag drop payload. Now that returns a pointer of the IamGUI payload. We want that to be null pointer, okay, or invalid. So if it's active and it's valid, we can actually call our update function now. So p active tool update, not abstract tool, update, and this takes in the canvas. So we need to get the canvas from the current scene. So p current scene get canvas. Cool. And we might as well call the create function. We're not doing anything with the create function, but we'll call it anyway. Great. All right. So now we need to actually adjust when see here, we're not really doing anything here. We're just changing our scenes. So we need to adjust this, okay? So what we can do is we can get rid of this. We can get rid of both of these right here. And let's create a new function in the tilemap display. So let's go to Control-K-O, open up the .h file, and we can make another private function, and we'll call this void load new scene. Cool. And we can create this function. Cool. So just like everything, we're going to want to check to see if our scene is valid. So we'll just grab this again. Because if we don't have a scene, we don't need to load it. So if not, p current scene return. Cool. Same thing, we're going to get the active tool. So auto p active tool is equal to scene manager get tool manager get active tool. And if our tool is active, so if p active tool, we're going to want to call the setup tool function that we created before. So p active tool setup tool. And that's going to take in the current scene registry pointer. Current scene p current scene get registry pointer. We're also going to want to send in the tilemap camera. So mp cam.get. Cool. So this returns a bool, so we can check for that as well. So if not, we can do for now just scion assert false. This should work. We'll just put that there for now. We should actually just put we should change the assert to also work in release, but by using a debug break. But we'll get into that. So debug break, because I want this to fail if it doesn't work. Okay. So if not, so then I want to check to see if the tile set is empty. So if not scene manager dot get tile set. Oh, we didn't make that. So we need to go back to the scene manager and create that function. So where's our scene manager? So we have set tile set. Let's make another one here. Just be a simple one. Same idea. Tile set. Current tile set. Awesome. Did I spell that correct? I did. And we can go back into our display here. Get current tile set. We want to make sure it's not empty. So if it's empty, if it's not empty, now we want to load our sprite. P active tool load sprite texture data. And that's just the scene manager get tile set. Get current tile set, sorry. Awesome. So now we can call this load scene function down here. So once we set our current scene, we can load this scene. Cool. All right. Yeah, because the current scene will be changed, and we'll just grab that scene and do all this for it. Cool. So this should work. I'm not sure if I'm missing anything, but we'll find out pretty quick. So let's try to build. Okay, so it's built. Now I'm going to want to go to Tilemap Editor. See, it's not showing the grid anymore because we don't have a valid scene. And that's great. We're going to want that. So let's go to Assets. Let's change this to be down here. And I want to change my scene. Let's just go to default scene. Cool. So that's working. That's what I want. So now let's just run this so I can get some stuff. Then go back to our assets. Oh, not assets, tile set. And make it a hill tile. Cool. And go back to Tilemap Editor. And we should be drawing that, but we're not. So let's see why. We can go and start some debugging. Where's our draw? So we loaded scene tool. So here, cool, we're stopping there. Get active tool, it's updating. Cool. So that's working. Where's our draw? Right here. It does go. It goes into draw. And we're going out of bounds. I'm not sure why. So we'll just run it back to here again. Probably sprite not being valid. But we'll see. Get rid of this breakpoint. Run it again. We know it's going to draw, so we can get rid of that breakpoint. Run it again. See if sprite is valid. And that's texture name is not empty. It is empty still. Ah, yes. I know exactly why. Because we didn't change. We changed the... So let's run this. Let's go here. So I changed what scene it was before I changed what tile set it was. So it doesn't have an active tile set right now. So what we need to do is in our tile set, we need to also call, whenever we change this, we need to call the set tile set function for the scene. So let's go do that now. So we'll open up our tile set display. Tile set display here. And then in our combo box, we can do that in here. Now, are we including our scene manager? We are not. So let's include the scene manager. Include the editor scene manager.h. Cool. Then right here we can say, oh, actually not here, not is selected. Oh, I want to keep the scene manager. But we don't want to do it in here. We can keep the brackets, that's fine. We can do it in here. When we actually select it, we can say scene manager dot set tile set to s tile set. Cool, that should work for us. Let's run it. Okay, so let's try this again. Bring this down here. Go to Tilemap Editor, drag in a new scene. Run the scene just so we can get our assets. Go to tile set, hill tiles, and it's still not drawing. Let's change it again. But it's probably something else, and that's fine. Hill tiles, and we should be drawing right now. So back to debugging it is. Debug, and that would be the CreateTileTool. Let's go stop here. So that should be valid now. Yep, hill tiles, good. So step through it, not that one. Step through is activated. This should be true. It is. Step through. Out of bounds. True. I must not have initialized that. Out of bounds. So that would be our abstract tool. Out of bounds should be false. Where are we returning? Where are we setting it to true? We're not setting it true anywhere. Let's just keep running. That might not be the case. Oh, MP camera is null. It's not the out of bounds. The out of bounds, that was incorrect. MP camera is null. That's the issue here. So why is my camera null for my tile tool? So we got to figure that out. So that would be in our Tilemap display, in the load scene, load new scene, Tilemap right here, .get, that should always be valid. Let's get rid of this for now. And let's load a new scene. Tilemap display. Load new scene. Let's try it here. Oh man, I did it again. So you guys probably caught this. So we want, if this is not valid, that's so silly. Cool. We can probably get rid of these breakpoints, and we can probably get rid of the breakpoint in the draw function. We already did. It should work now. If not, we'll fix it. Okay, so we need to load our scene. So bring our assets over. I'm going to change where this is. Scenes, I want to drag it into here. Default scene. Run this. Stop. Tile set. Change. Hill tiles. Tilemap editor. Yay! Now it's not following our mouse, and that's fine. But let's figure out why. That's great. So at least we have a tile being drawn right now. Our grid is too big for the tiles, but that's fine. So let's go and see why it's not following. Probably the same idea. So let's go to Tilemap display, and where's our update? If not current scene, right here. So we're sending in pActiveTool update. Gets the canvas, updates the active tool, check out of bounds, doesn't do anything for now. Update world. No screen chords. Ha! No, that's exactly correct. Again, I'm trying to walk before I can crawl. And that's a problem here. I'm forgetting simple things that we definitely need. I'm not actually setting our coordinates. the coordinates I'm constantly being set to 0 because we're not changing them, okay? And that's my fault. So what we need to actually do, close this, sorry guys, and we need to go back into our draw function here. So right here, right before our image, we're going to want to actually update the tool's position, okay? So right here, in the Tilemap display, I'm going to want to get the active tool, so auto p active tool, that's the scene manager, get tool manager, get active tool, and if the active tool is valid, we have some updating to do here. So right here, we're going to want to get some things from IamGUI. Are we already getting that stuff? No. So we're going to want to go IamGUI IO is equal to IamGUI get IO. We're going to need the IO to get the mouse pause, and then we're also going to want to get the relative position, so auto relative pause, and that's going to be IamGUI get cursor screen pause. Then I'm going to want to get the cursor position, so auto cursor pause is equal to IamGUI get cursor pause. Then I'm going to want to get the window position, so auto window pause is equal to IamGUI get window pause. Cool. So now that I have these, I have some things I need to set. So I need to go here, and we're already getting our window size, which is great. So we need to go p active tool set relative chords, and that's just glm vec2. That takes in relative pause.x and relative pause.y. Cool, that's one. And we can just copy these down a few times because we're going to have to set them. And we've got to set the cursor chords. So set cursor chords, and that's just going to be the... Do we even need this cursor position? I believe we can just get this, what I'm looking for from... Yeah, we don't need that, so let's get rid of this. I want the mouse cursor chords, okay, and that's going to be io dot mouse pause dot x and io mouse pause dot y. Cool. And then we're going to set the window pause, so set window pause, and this one's going to be set window size, okay. So this one is window pause. Copy that. Window pause. These are window size. Window size. Window size. Okay. So I believe I have everything now. Let's try to run it again. Alright. So we're going to want to do the same thing we've been doing. Eventually, we won't have to start the scene to load the assets. We'll be able to load them from save files and from the menu. But right now, we got to do what we got to do. So we have that. We have our scenes, Tilemap Editor, drag it in. Cool. And also, like, this is hard-coded. This is 32 by 32. Eventually, this is going to change. You're going to be able to set that as part of the scene values. So let's play our scene. Stop it. Tilemap Editor. Tile set, load a tile set, bang, and it's still not updating. That should be following us around by the cursor. So now we got to see why. So is this being called? Yep, it is. Relative IO, sure. Okay, so those are being set. I must be forgetting something else. Update. Let's go here. Scene. What is the canvas? Yep. Sure. Let's call the update. Mouse screen chords. GUI relative chords, cursor chords, camera set. Cool. Mouse chords are 0. And it is some weird ass numbers afterwards. Examine mouse. Let's see what this ends up being. So all in all, it ends up being 0. So I'm definitely missing something. You know what? Let's actually just change our grid snap to be false for now and see if it follows it then. Because if it does follow it then it's a problem with our grid snap, and if not, it's something else. So let's just stop this. Where are we setting our grid snap? Grid snap, F3, change this to false. Get rid of that for now. Run it. Try again. Ah, sorry guys. I thought I had this all figured out. Get rid of that. That should also be checked if we have an active scene as well. Okay. Yay. Okay, so it follows the cursor around, and that's what I want. So we need to, it's not on the center, but that's okay. So at least it's working now, and it's following around. So there's a problem with our grid snap function, and we got to figure that out. Okay, so let's take a look. We can get out of here. So we know that that's working. So let's go back to our CreateTileTool. And not a CreateTileTool, this is just a TileTool update. So the grid snap is not working. This is working. So if mouse right times 0. That's funny. Yeah, because I didn't want it to actually do the work. It should be times 0.5. Now that should be on the center. So that works. Let's change this to false. I'll leave that to true. We're going to grid snap anyway. Okay. So what am I doing wrong here? Oh man. Oh, this right here. This should be scale, not position. So yeah. Anyway, so that should fix that. Well, we'll see in a second. And right now, because it should actually snap by 16, because the tiles are 16s. So let's actually go quickly into our grid system and make some changes. Because right now, we're not doing it based on the canvas size. We're doing it based on some hard-coded values. And we're going to want to change that. So let's go to our editor systems, GridSystem.cpp. And here, in our update, we're only sending in the camera. Let's make a change to this. We're going to want to send in the canvas as well, or the current scene. That's what we should send in. We can send in the current scene. Let's go here. And yes, we wanted to make this change, but we never did. So let's do that now. Bring that over. Paste. We can get rid of this class here, and we need to include scene. So include editor scene object. Cool. So now that we have our current scene, we got to make some changes here. So there's a lot of stuff that I wasn't factoring in that you guys probably already caught on to. So I need to actually get this scene. So we have our scene. We're sending in our scene. And we need to actually get the canvas now. Okay? So I need to go auto. This guy should be const auto, I believe. Const auto reference canvas is equal to current scene dot get canvas. Okay, so we got our canvas, and now we don't even really need this stuff. We can just replace all of this with our canvas data. So let's get rid of this. Okay, so yeah, so we have this canvas width, canvas height. Well, we can do that. So here we can go, or actually we can leave all that and just use our stuff here. We can go canvas dot tile width, canvas dot tile height. Bring this down a layer. This is int. Canvas width, canvas height. Great. So we don't have to make much changes. It should all just work. All right. But now when we run this, we should get a failure where we're calling our grid system because it needs the current scene. And that'll be, we don't even have to run it. I know exactly where that is, tilemap display. And we should have an error right now because it doesn't take just one argument. Right here in our grid system also needs to take the current scene. So we need to go p current scene, and we need to dereference it because it takes a reference. All right, let's try running this again. And now we should actually be snapping to each location in the map. Cool. So we want to get our assets, load a new scene in our Tilemap Editor. Cool. Yep, see how these went right back to 16 by 16. Let's run this so we can get our tile maps, or tile set, sorry. Load our tile set, hill tiles, this tile, and look at that. We are now snapping to each piece of the tile. Now we can't create them yet. And is this changing? No, it is not. So this isn't changing either. So we need to fix that as well. Right here. So when we click here, we should be changing our UVs, but we're not, because we need to change that for our active tool needs to update its sprite UVs. Okay, so let's close this down. That's one more thing we have to do. Okay, and that would be in our tile set. So in our tile set display. So in our tile set display, we're actually setting our tile set here, but we also need to set the UVs. So right here, right now we're just logging which ones, but we can get rid of this now. And we can say auto p active tool is equal to scene manager dot get tool manager dot get active tool. Now it's not going to know what these are, so we need to go up here and include those. So include editor tools tool manager, and here we can just go include editor tools. I believe we can just include the tile tool. That should handle it because that's a tile tool function. So we can go back down here. So since we're getting our active tool, if our active tool is valid, so if p active tool, then we're going to want to set the sprite UVs. So p active tool dot set sprite UVs, and that's just going to be, so the start X and start Y. And in this case, start X is J and start Y is I. That's it. Cool. Now that should work for us. We should actually be changing which tile that we're loading. So let's go take a look. Okay, so same as before, we're just going to bring this over, scenes, tilemap editor, load our scene, and we're going to want to run this so we can get our tile sets, get our tile set, hill tile, and we have that one, and let's change it to a rock, and it shows the rock. Look at that. Beautiful. So that's working for us the way that we want it. Now we can't create any tiles yet because we haven't implemented that function, and that's going to be your guys' challenge because this video has gone on too long already. So let's take a little look here, and we'll go to the create tile tool, and we have our create function. So what we're going to want to do, so you want to check your validities. So check for like out of bounds, active, etc. Right? You're going to want to check for the registry as well. Make sure that it is valid. And if it's not, you're just going to want to leave the function. You're not going to want to create. Now, you're also going to want to check to see if the mouse button is pressed for left. So we want to check for mouse left button pressed. Now we also want to check to see if it's just pressed or pressed, because if it's pressed, we're going to want to have a way to drag it to create multiple tiles at once. Okay, and inside of here, these are all 2Ds. You're going to want to create the entity, the tile entity. So create tile entity based off of the mouse tile that we created before. Okay, so you guys should be able to handle that. Give it a crack, see what you can do. And right now, don't worry about the colliders, don't worry about animations, just put a check. So you want to see like if MB or if MP mouse tile B collider is valid or is true, then we're going to want to create the then we're going to want to add collider component. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Right now we just want to see if we can create the transform and the sprite and add that entity and see if it loads into the tile map. That's a little challenge for you guys. See if you can get it done. Right now we're drawing it, we're snapping, it's doing its thing. That's great. And I'll go over the challenge in the next video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And that's it for this one. Take it easy.